Hello artists, I'm going to take you through beginning to end, how to create your first edition and 2 experiments. First, you want to cut or tear paper to fit your plate. Our paper is much larger than our plate. If you cut it in half and then take some off of the side of the half, you'll have a nice sized paper. Next, you want to create a jig for your registration matrix, and I just use an old box. I cut little strips that will hold my paper in place so that it always goes back to the same spot. And you can either glue those little strips of extra cardboard or tape them, which is what I did here. It's just there so that each time my paper will go in the same place. I usually mark it up so that I can return to this jig at a later date to reprint my plate or another plate of the same size. And I don't need to put strips on the other side, just a marker line is enough. Then I want to place my plate where I want it to go, and again, cut strips that I will tape or glue down to form my jig, and this will comprise my registration matrix. A registration matrix is something that you use to hold your paper and your plate in a particular spot so that your edition is the same. An edition means that you will be creating plates that are printed with the same quality, on the same paper, in the same way, with the same ink. Because we're not machines, we're not Xerox's machines, this is how we control our quality. Now you need to take out the rest of your printing tools, so you need your barren, your Breyer, the little plexi plate, peel away the protective layer, and then you need some ink. For this particular exercise, I took a couple of inks and mixed them together. You also need something to mix inks if you're going to mix inks. I have a palette knife here, but I also just took a little piece of cardboard and I can use that instead. For this exercise and today's demonstration, I chose to use 2 colors because sometimes, you know, the color that comes in the kit is good, but sometimes you want a special color, which is what I wanted today. And I can either use a palette knife or I can use that little stick of cardboard to mix my colors. Roll it out thinly, and you want to hear something that sounds like ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. Roll it onto the surface of your plate from different directions. Place the plate in the jig, then grab one of your sheets of paper. And then I'm going to use my barren. Do you see how I stuck my fingertips underneath the handle? And then I'm going to press evenly. Now your first print is usually a little light. That's because the surface of your plate has not been saturated with ink yet. Remember to ink away from your jig. If you get ink on your jig, it could possibly get on your paper. And then you're going to repeat this process 8 times, or as many as you need to get 8 prints that are of the same quality. Now remember, you're not a machine, you're a human being. Same quality means one is not very light and the other one's very dark. They're more or less the same. And after you do your 8, you can do some experiments. This time I'm doing an experiment on a scrap piece of paper. You can also ink with different colors. Here I am mixing a light and a darker blue all on the same Breyer, so I can do an ombré effect where it'll be darker on one side and lighter on the other. You can see that on the plate. So it's something that you can do. You can also wet your paper and then tamp it so it's not dripping wet with a paper towel. And it gives you a really soft but heavily inked effect. I wanted to show you this because a lot of students will try to do this. If they have a print that's too light, they will try to double it. And what happens is this plate is too mushy to do that. You'll lose detail. For your experiments, you can try printing on different color papers or on the same paper with much different colored ink like we did with the ombré. I could have switched to a red or a green, for example. And then when you're done printing your edition and experiments, it's time to clean up, and it's very easy. You just put away your stuff and then take your gear and plate to the sink, and plain water with a little rubbing cleans everything off. When you're done cleaning your plate and stuff, make sure you use a soapy sponge on your sink, because this ink will stain your sink otherwise. And then I like to just wipe down the table lining cardboard that I use to protect my table, just so that I won't get that ink on my clothes and arms later.